Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day and you are ready for the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news, and yeah, this is going to be all about the headlines. Just a little bit late, sorry, meant to record this a day sooner, but don't worry, we'll have another one out here shortly. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, everything you need to know about the program you can find right there. And while you're there, be sure to check out the articles. We have reviews, we have links to social media. Anything you do there, anything you give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review on, helps us immensely. Thank you so much for that. And of course, if you'd like to catch us live and ask us questions, bring up any topics of conversation yourself, twitch.tv/Computer America as well. Streaming Monday through Friday, and hey, likely some more in between. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news, and that's brought to you by Computer America. So our first story that we were going to do was actually, let's see real quick, and there we go. All right, and again, thank you if you're watching the video portion. It's one of the more complicated things that we do. Okay, Tesla is, of course, they are going to be well, in here they show, things like the Steam and The Witcher, The Wild Hunt on the center console there. You can see there they have video games, and not just like, in-flight games like they have on planes and things like that are just meant to, get $5 or $10 out of you. No, they're talking full-blown games that you would find in, in any major computer. It's really amazing that this car can power a lot of these games and still, do everything that the car needs to do. Now, they're saying that many Tesla vehicles allow drivers to play a selection of games on the infotainment system while the car is in motion, and the company rolled out an update this summer that reportedly let drivers play Solitaire, jet fighter game Skyforce Reloaded, and strategy title The Battle of Polytopia Moonrise while on the road. But here's the thing. They said, obviously there's a warning before saying that, this is only for passengers when the car is in motion. It makes a lot of sense, because even in complete autopilot, Tesla should be the driver of the Tesla, or at least the rider of the Tesla, even when Tesla's driving itself, needs to be able to regain control of the vehicle in a split second, because the autopilot is not perfect. It's getting better. Year over year, it's getting better. It's killing less people. That's great. But still, this is the ultimate in distracted driving. So they're saying that that indicates that Tesla knows that its games are being played while the car is moving. Although players have to acknowledge that they are the passenger, the driver can tap the button and play the game. Even if a passenger is playing something, it's possible that a driver will divert their attention to see what's happening anyways. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why operating systems so far in cars, it could be flashy and attention grabbing. It could be, in so many ways better. That we would kind of associate it with iOS or Android or what have you. But there's a reason car entertainment and infotainment systems look the way they do. And it's supposed to be unobtrusive, not very attention grabbing, because your attention is supposed to be on the road. But hey, when you're talking about video games in a Tesla, that is the by far the opposite. So, of course, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said over 3,000 people died in crashes due to distracted driving in 2019. I would actually argue, though, that a lot of that would be associated with cell phones. ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever driven on the interstate, look around you. Oh my God, everyone's on a cell phone. It is scary out there. Be safe. They mentioned that a 2017 study suggested that many infotainment features absorb drivers' attention too long for them to be safe. And a University of Utah research found that when drivers used voice-based and touchscreen systems, took their hands, eyes, and mind off the road for more than 24 seconds to complete the task. And I would say that a lot of that has to do with the just how good these vehicles are at recognizing voice and things like that. Yeah, they're not good. They're not great. So I wish that they were faster and they just kind of picked up and did things on their own. But you have to make sure you have to activate the console, especially with voice, is what I'm thinking of. You have to activate the command, say the command, and then make sure that the command takes. And sometimes, hey, it just doesn't hear you correctly or doesn't execute. And yeah, 24 seconds can turn into even longer, for sure. Now, drivers are supposed to keep their hands on the steering wheel when the autopilot is engaged. In August, they said that it was investigating autopilot for one death and 17 injuries. There you go. Other automakers lock many touchscreens and infotainment systems when the car is in motion, and Tesla has added a number of games to its infotainment system over the last few years. Until a few months ago, they were only playable while the car was parked. And they said that they didn't respond to requests for comments, and the company no longer has a PR department, which they always like to point out because, yeah, they famously do not have a PR department. But still, it's one of those things where legally they throw up that screen and say, this is meant to be used by passengers, not the driver. Press this button that is equally accessible by the driver. I don't know if there are any systems in place to say that, if the driver is the only one in the car, then don't let them play video games. Something as simple as that, because there are sensors in the seats to kind of let the car know how many people are sitting in the car. Maybe if there's only one person sitting in the car, don't let that one person play games while the car is in motion. I feel like there are many safety features that they could activate, but they do just enough that legally they have a way to, kind of work their way out of it. So there you go. Tesla in-dash video games can be played even while driving, and that could be cause for concern. Okay, so there's a lot of stories here. Unfortunately, this is going to have to be cut a little bit short. We only have about half an hour, and trust me, with the amount of stories that I have, we'll pick up on some of these later today, I think, as well. So we have two big stories. We'll save those for a little bit. This one should be an update to everyone by now. About yesterday, 10:45 Eastern. That's right, Amazon Web Services went down. The cloud company acknowledged the outage, saying that we are experiencing API and console issues in the US East 1 region. We have identified root causes and we are actively working towards recovery. The issue affecting the global console landing page, which also hosted in US East 1, customers may be able to access region-specific consoles. So to access US West 2 console, try, and then they give a link there. They mentioned that other companies impacted include stock and crypto platform public.com, NFT site Recur. They have other ones. They have really just a ton of video games, audio software. I think even Disney Plus, League of Legends, Tinder, Instacart, Venmo, Robinhood, Roku, Kindle, McDonald's, all of them are reporting outages as well. And these are only going to get more widespread as web hosting services get fewer and fewer because, to make money, you have to have a lot of customers and you have to have a lot of bandwidth, and a lot of that helps with being centralized. You have, of course, the Azure Cloud by Microsoft. You have Amazon Web Services. You have Google, Google Cloud in their system. There's only so many companies that actually run servers and run the underpinnings of our entire internet. And more, it's looking like Microsoft and Amazon and Google in particular are doing that. So, yeah, when it goes down, a lot of different services. In fact, even things like Microsoft and Google are going to go down as well, because they all kind of share. They have to buy resources from each other to keep up with demand. It's really impressive. But still, lots of video games, lots of services, lots of apps, all of it went down. So I think all of it should be back up, and it had a problem to do with just networking. If you notice that, you weren't alone. Okay, so there's that one. Another little update we have here is that Jessica Rosenworcel, hopefully I said that right. And real quick, let's see. So we add that here so we can add it in the show notes, computeramerica.com. Okay, Jessica Rosenworcel has been confirmed. 68-31, which, we don't talk about politics much, but man, the fact that that was at least bipartisan is pretty impressive. And putting her in place to be the first permanent chair of the agency under President Biden. She's the first female chair in 86-year history of the FCC. The vote officially confirmed Rosenworcel's reappointment as FCC commissioner, but the Senate approval in place, it makes her formal ascension to chair all but certain. In a speech, they said that called a remarkable, highly experienced, and historic nominee. So there you go. It's as chair, she's expected to place a particular emphasis on broadband access, working to expand high-speed internet coverage in underserved areas. And they mentioned that in an interview in 2020, she said a particular emphasis on the homework gap caused as schools move online, which during the pandemic has only really accelerated. It's something to really focus on. So they'll be taking, obviously there's an extended deadlock with the commission, and they say that as a result, the FCC has been unable to take action on net neutrality. In October, Biden nominated a longtime advocate for the fifth seat, but she was generated significant opposition and may not receive a full Senate vote until the new year. So there you go. But yeah, just widening access to true broadband, getting internet service to underserved areas, because let's face it, 5 or 6 megabits per second download speed is not enough anymore. People need to be able to participate in, I know it's kind of cliche to say it, participate in the online economy. And yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of areas in rural America that are missing out on a lot of income that they could be getting if they had proper internet access. So that last mile, we can't always depend on Comcast or Charter or whatever. We can't depend on them to deliver that kind of access to Americans. So it's good that she's going to take that up, but man, that's a big task. Okay, let's see. So with that story, 2 Bitcoin NFT stories that we have there. Actually, 3. Looking at that here, let me organize this a little bit. Here's something that is, going to happen in the future and may interest people. If you've been thinking, oh, electric cars, they're so great, except for their inability to go long distances. Well, it took an act of Congress and $7.5 billion in federal funding, but more than 50 of the nation's power companies are ready to build a coast-to-coast fast-charging network for electric vehicles. That's something. They say that the proposal is so far is light on details, and they mentioned that the members of the National Electric Highway Coalition serve nearly 120 million customers across 47 states. And long story short, they are going to build out a network to make sure that an electric car can get from one coast to the other. And they mentioned that they're hoping to build 500,000 fast chargers by 2030, and many utilities need to get the go-ahead from regulators, but they said that over 50 have already been approved for $3 billion worth of EV-related projects. So there you go. It's looking very good for electric vehicles. If you jump in now, it might be there might be a little bit of anxiety, but I'm sure in 5 years there will be absolutely no anxiety to, can I charge my car if I take it away from my home? And it looks like that answer is quickly becoming yes. So a little update there. Let's see. So Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that. Okay. How about this? We talked about this just a little bit, and hacker named Bowser. And actually, fun story, the CEO of Nintendo North America is also called Bowser. But that's besides the point. Another Bowser, a different Bowser, Gary Bowser in particular, says that he has agreed to pay a fine of $10 million over piracy charges. So this was a gentleman who was found guilty of running a site that had ROMs for for many of Nintendo's many games, and it was part of the piracy group Team Executor, admitted in the federal case that he knowingly and willfully participated in a cyber criminal enterprise that hacked leading game consoles. And from what I understand, they sold it as like a kind of a workaround kind of deal, but to do one little thing. But in reality, everyone knew that this was the premier, best, number one go-to place for purchasing console hacking hardware. So they mentioned that the hacker also pleaded guilty to another federal case in late October. They mentioned that these include Nintendo Switch and 3DS games. Bowser also accepted that he made and sold software that allowed people to circumvent protections built into game consoles so that they could be used to play pirated versions of video games. The hacker, who was originally from Canada, was arrested in the Dominican Republic and deported to the U.S. in September 2020. So he definitely tried to go on the lam, but Bowser gets his comeuppance. And Nintendo sues Bowser. But not the fictional giant angry turtle. Nope, just that. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about another little update, but this one to YouTube. And a lot of YouTubers have constantly complained that the YouTube algorithm is, or I should say the content copyright system, the content flagging system, is very aggressive and oftentimes incorrect. We even got hit with one just for mentioning the word Spotify. We actually got hit with one from Spotify. And hey, we're a news organization. We report on things all the time. So luckily it doesn't happen often, but that one it did. So I have firsthand experience with this, but still, let's talk about this real quick. YouTube reveals millions of videos get hit with incorrect copyright claims. There you go. This happened just a day ago. Over 2.2 million YouTube videos were hit with copyright claims that were later overturned. Now, the 2.2 million incorrect claims represent less than 1% of the, get this, 729 million total copyright claims issued in the first half of this year. 99% of which originated from Content ID. I would hope so. 99%. Man, that's crazy. The automated enforcement tool. When users disputed these claims, the case was resolved in favor of the uploader of the video 60% of the time, according to the report. Though mistaken copyright claims are a drop in the bucket in the larger scale, YouTube creators have long complained about how the platform handles claims, saying that they are overly aggressive or unjustified enforcement can lead to lost income. Copyright claims can result in videos being blocked, audio being muted, or ad revenue going back to the rights owner. And in a lot of cases, your right to parody, your right to, comment or things like that, really keep it from being monetized. And hey, to some people, this is their main form of revenue. In 2019, YouTube CEO then said in a blog post that the company heard the concerns from creators and were exploring improvements in striking the right balance between copyright owners and creators. So the new report notes that no system is perfect and that the errors happen even with the established guardrails in place to prevent abuse of enforcement mechanisms, saying that when disputes take place, the process provided by YouTube provides real recourse, and over 60% of these disputes were resolved in the favor of the uploader. Honestly, looking at the numbers, by and large, 2.2 million were flagged incorrectly. And then those that were flagged correctly, but then were disputed, 60% of those were then, back in the hands of the people that uploaded it. 730 million videos. That's just something that no one company can really keep track of. There are thousands of days worth of video uploaded every single one day to YouTube. Thousands and thousands of hours uploaded every single minute to YouTube. It has to be automated. Like, there's no system around it. And unfortunately, the system needs training. And you would think that YouTube and Google in particular, with their DeepMind, would provide the best training, but even they can't get it right 100% of the time. And they likely never will. But I gotta say, again, given the numbers, Google's actually doing good. And that's not something you say often. Google is actually doing pretty good when it comes to all of this. So there you have it. Okay, so we have that story. We have time to... How about some high tech and high sciencey tech? Check this one out. If you can see the video, that's great. This one is seeing is believing. Researchers made a camera that's the size of a grain of salt. There you go. And yeah, they even show a picture from it. Let's see. Okay. These are the figures from it. Accept all cookies. Good stuff. They show a bowl of fruit. They show a chameleon. They show a flower. And, honestly, really, really impressive. So a newly developed camera the size of a grain of salt can take clear, full-color images at the level of cameras that are 500,000 times larger. Okay, so let's see. And this thing is called, they've researched a new system called a metasurface to shrink the camera's hardware down to size and combine this with machine learning image processing that enables the camera to produce clear images in natural light. Each camera consists of 1.6 million cylindrical posts which interact with light to produce images. These posts are as small as the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Weird comparison. Great that it's the size of HIV, but I don't know how many people are really walking around with a very intimate knowledge of how large HIV is. But still, the surfaces are made from silicon nitride, a material that makes them compatible with computing microchip manufacturing. This means they'll be cheaper and faster to produce than the current full-size camera lenses. So the researchers envision these types of cameras being used in procedures like endoscopies, where high-quality photos from inside a patient's body also need to be minimally invasive as possible. And this would be super minimally invasive. I mean, again, the size of a grain of salt. Saying that, quote, we could turn individual surfaces into cameras that have ultra high resolution, so you wouldn't need 3 cameras on the back of your phone anymore, but the whole back of your phone would become one giant camera. We can think of completely different ways to build devices in the future. And this one, and again, looking at it, so they have a couple of different ones here. Let's see, so they show examples, reconstructions are shown for a still life with fruits, a green lizard, and a blue flower. Insets are shown below the row. We compare our reconstruction to the truth acquisition. So it looks like this photo, and they show like a picture of fruit and neuro-nano optics, ground truth using compound. Okay. So it looks like this is a normal high-quality photo, and then they show how their camera kind of compares, and they show 4 different examples. It takes a really blurry image, and that's the point that I think they kind of gloss over in the article here. The photo is super, super blurry, but it's just barely enough that a computer system on the other side can look at the image, look at the information that's taken from that image, and, clean it up. Kind of say that, oh, if this pixel's that, then that pixel's that. It's a lot like the technology that Google has already been using to reconstruct blurred or damaged photos. It knows that, hey, this is likely an apple. And in Apple, it's going to have this contour, it's going to have this lighting, it's going to have this texture to it, and it slowly starts to reconstruct. Is it 100% perfect? Not so much. But is it good enough for computers to kind of take it over? Absolutely. And again, seeing the camera on the tip of this guy's finger is really, really impressive. Very cool. So there's that article. Let's see. So we have an article here about the CIA is deep into cryptocurrency and essentially saying that the CIA has multiple projects that are into, the CIA is running and is invested in multiple projects in cryptocurrency to kind of gauge the impact and, to gauge the impact and what is going to happen with cryptocurrency. The CIA and three-letter organizations are heavily into financial institutions already, banks, money transfers, money laundering, things like that. So it makes perfect sense that the CIA would also have a very, very big presence in something that is completely, supposedly revolutionary and going to be heavily used in dark circles like ransomware and things like that. So obviously the CIA is looking to get a handle on all of that. So we'll throw that into the show notes. Okay, two of the last biggest stories. Let's go ahead and talk about... let's not talk about that. Okay, two last biggest stories, and this will take us out for the day. Apple CEO Tim Cook personally and secretively, as they kind of say here, signed a $275 billion deal with China in 2016. So Apple vowed to invest many billions of dollars more than its current expenditure in China, including on new retail stores, research and development facilities, renewable energy projects. Other internal documents reportedly show that Apple pledged pledge amounted to more than $275 billion in spending over a 5-year period. So obviously they suggest that Apple is heavily reliant on Cook for international negotiations and speculates that it could face difficulties dealing with government affairs when Cook stands down as the company's CEO. But of course, there's no expected, that's not happening anytime soon. So they said that in an extensive report that was based on interviews and purported internal Apple documents, the information revealed that Tim Cook personally forged a 5-year agreement with the Chinese government. They mentioned that Cook personally lobbied officials in China over threats made against Apple Pay, iCloud, and the App Store. Cook set out to use a memorandum of understanding between Apple and a powerful Chinese government agency called the National Development and Reform Commission to formally agree to a number of concessions in return for regulatory exemptions, which, hey, when you are such a large company and a hugely important cornerstone to China's economic growth, which is, not just manufacturing Apple devices, but attracting other manufacturing from other tech sectors to China, to kind of say that, oh, look how shiny and perfectly made the iPhone is. You should make your product in China too, because look what comes out of China. It's not cheap. It's, expensive stuff. I think China had a lot to gain, like not even, not so much the $275 billion that, Tim Cook assured that he would invest in different projects into China, not just $275 billion, but China had a lot to gain from, making such quality products in their country and exporting them to every country around the world. Because let's face it, iPhone and other Apple products, they're a status symbol. AirPods are a status symbol, and China wants that in their economy, or, kind of thanks to their economy. So, but of course, Apple had even more to lose if they did lose the Chinese manufacturing. Setting up a new supply chain, setting up everything to make it so that Apple could produce elsewhere would have cost them a lot more money. In fact, would have raised the price of all of Apple products, and then even beyond that, would have made them less competitive with other smartphone manufacturers. Apple had to do this, but Tim Cook, I guess, kind of made it sexy for the Chinese government. So they mentioned, as an example, Cook announced that Apple would be investing $1 billion in the Chinese ride-hailing startup Didi Zhuxing in a pointed attempt to mollify authorities. Shortly after, Cook, Apple Chief Operating Officer Jeff Williams, and Government Affairs Head Lisa Jackson met with senior officials in Zhongnanhai, the central headquarters of the Communist Party of China. So, they, Tim Cook prostrated himself. He, maybe not literally, but he really went above and beyond to make sure that this deal went ahead and Apple could, continue what it is that they're doing. So there you have it. There's that one. We can go ahead and continue on here to the last story, which we might actually go more in depth in, but, we have just enough time. Meta, of course, Facebook, if you've been living under a rock, Meta is being sued, get this, for $150 million, which, by and large, I'm not even talking about is it justified or not, but to be able to put a number onto genocide is really incredible. So why is Facebook being targeted? Facebook is being targeted because this was Myanmar. I'm about to say Cambodia. Myanmar. They had a little genocide, and it's really bad. They had Rohingya, so Rohingya refugees have launched 2 class action lawsuits in excess of $150 billion against Meta. And they said that the lawsuits, which were filed anonymously in the UK and US, alleged that Facebook platform widely disseminated anti-Rohingyan hate speech and misinformation while also helping users incite violence and culminated in rape, death, and torture of hundreds of thousands of Rohingyan people, or the Rohingya people. And if you don't know, Facebook was used as a tool to spread misinformation, organize riots, find people on that social media site that were Rohingya, and track them down and either murder them. All this happened on Facebook, and one of Facebook's main complaints to say that, we had no idea, was that a lot of this was happening in a dialect and a language that its automated systems could not do. They had like 2 people who could speak the language and speak those dialects natively, working through all of the posts. And you can imagine, hundreds of thousands of people sharing propaganda, sharing posts, organizing events, and you have like 1 or 2 people, like a very, very, very limited staff of people who can actually even understand what's happening, trying to combat it. It was just not going to happen. And that's something maybe people don't really realize, is that Facebook has to have auto moderation techniques. And it's one thing for English, because everyone that speaks English, and English is a very widely spoken kind of thing, but their moderation tools have to account for, 178 countries, hundreds of languages, thousands of dialects within all those hundreds of languages. It's something to really, that's something that Facebook clearly falls behind in. And what it led to was a Muslim minority that has historically lived in Myanmar, but faced persecution and human rights violations from local government and extremist Buddhists in the country. The UK lawsuit was brought on behalf of all non-US resident Rohingya survivors around the world, while the separate US claim will be for Rohingya community based in the US. In the originating complaint for the U.S. lawsuit, which they even show, they even link to, the refugees allege that Facebook executives allowed posts ordering hits by the Myanmar government on Rohingya people to remain on the platform despite having known about its existence for years. So, they mentioned that, quote, to maximize engagement, Facebook does not merely fill users' news feeds with disproportionate amounts of hate speech and misinformation. It employs a system of social rewards that manipulates and trains users to create such content. Essentially, if you want to get likes, if you want to get shares, if you want to get follows, you be a contrarian. You post what is inflammatory. You post what is going to get people's attention, because likes, dislikes, reactions, comments, any of that is going to further elevate you in the algorithm. And let's face it, fueling the flames of bigotry, hey, that's a lot of clicks, that's a lot of eyeballs, and that's a lot of advertising that Facebook can deliver. So according to the complaint, Facebook only conceded in 2018 that its platform was used to foment division and incite offline violence after the Rohingya genocide had already happened. This was despite Facebook being warned around 2013 and onwards of the anti-Rohingya posts and post groups and accounts on its platform. So, to skip ahead here a little bit, while one of these cases has been filed in the U.S. for that particular matter, the refugees are seeking for it to be trialed under Burmese law so that Meta is unable to use Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which Section 230 may ring a bell. Yeah, that needs to be looked at. So, they mentioned that to remedy these accusations, both class action lawsuits seek more than $150 billion in reparations for the wrongful death, personal injury, pain and suffering, emotional distress, and loss of property by the Rohingya people. And that's what I was kind of saying way at the beginning. How do you start to put a number on genocide, on thousands of deaths, a systematic persecution of an entire population? That seems almost impossible, but hey, they came up with $150 billion. Honestly, sounds low. Will Facebook and Meta have to pay this? They're gonna this is company ending if they lose something like this. This will likely end in a settlement for a lot less, but still. They mentioned that the lawsuit follows follow Facebook whistleblower, slamming Facebook about its alleged use of opaque algorithms to spread harmful content. There we go. Her accusations on these algorithms could trigger a growing number of violent events, such as attacks on the U.S. Capitol building and more. Similar arguments have already been filed in the UK lawsuit. For that lawsuit, the Rohingya refugees' legal representatives have so far given Facebook formal notice of their intention to initiate proceedings. Is it justified? Absolutely. Will Facebook or Meta pay? Probably not. It's really incredible when when you hear stories like this. At what point do companies exist for the betterment of society? And we have to look at it and say, is Amazon doing more good than harm? Is Facebook or Meta doing more good than harm? And by and large, I feel like they've become such monstrous organizations that the answer is likely no. It's gotten so large, trillions of dollars in capital, that they're almost self-perpetuating companies that exist to increase their value, increase their stock price, and everything else associated with making money kind of falls by the wayside. It's just, we hire people because we have to. We fire people because it helps us. we violate human rights because that's a byproduct and it was unforeseen. And I really truly hope that this was unforeseen by Facebook. We violate human rights because it's unforeseen. We cause harm because it's unintended, but it doesn't stop us. It doesn't change us as a company. The humans in charge, the CEOs that are supposed to direct these companies, they don't have a clear working of all the machinations and all of the fallout of their decisions. They deal with them and they say, oops, we'll deal with that. But I feel like the company itself is not for the betterment of anyone. It is self-generating money, and that's really kind of the end of it when it comes to especially these extremely large tech companies. It doesn't matter who is the CEO. They are entities unto themselves. So yeah, what happens from here, who knows? But ladies and gentlemen, that's about all the time we have here for Computer America. Sorry to end on such a sour note. Things are good. Don't get me wrong, things are good. There are problems, we'll work through them. But by and large, everyone, thank you for tuning in to Computer America. And until next time, computeramerica.com, wherever podcasts are heard, simply search Computer America and we should pop right up. We'll have another podcast out later today. You can check that out. But in the meantime, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Be safe out there. Don't play games on your Tesla. Bye, everyone. Oh, wait, actually. Where'd it go? Did I already? No way, I already closed it. Oh, here we go. Everyone? Yeah, I should play the music. So everyone, again, be safe. ComputerAmerica.com, twitch.tv/ComputerAmerica. I should really be plugging that more. We stream Monday through Friday, and we might even do weekends here and there. Special events, especially with CES 2022 coming up, we will have a lot of different content and a lot of interviews from your favorite companies. We already have some from like Stern Pinball, for instance. We'll be coming on the show to talk about the future of connected stuff. So everyone, until next time, have a great day. Stay safe. Catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.